Welcome to the Owning Your Sexual Self podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Main, awesome wife and dog mom for life. I'm a sex therapist turned sex coach, and I run a successful business selling relationship enhancement products. I absolutely love talking about all things sex. So you can expect this podcast to explore all things related to women's sexual health because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you discover and embrace what brings you pleasure so that you can own your sexual self. If that sounds good to you, then keep listening and let's fucking do this. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Owning Your Sexual Self podcast. I am very excited for today's guest. I have on with me Erin, who is a sex, love, and play coach. I love that, a play coach. And she helps women spice up their sex lives, explore fantasies, threesomes, and even more with their partner. Her Instagram, you can find her at Turn On with Erin. That's ERIN. Turn On with Erin is her Instagram handle. Definitely somebody that you want to follow. We connected recently in another women's group, and immediately when I heard her story, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to have you on the podcast. We are going to be talking this episode about exploring all things non-monogamous. And if you're not sure what monogamy is, monogamy basically means you're committing to one person in that time frame that you're committing to that person. So one person only. I would consider myself a monogamous person. I'm married to my husband, Danny. We are both people in that monogamy mindset. And that's what we have chosen for our partnership at this point in our life. So that's not to say that monogamy or anything non-monogamous, that's not to say that anything can't change over time, because as you've heard me say before on this podcast, you know, our sexual desires, our influences, they change over time. And so it's okay if you find that this might be something that changes within your relationship, which is exactly why I'm having Erin on today. I want to help educate you on what exactly non-monogamous relationships can look like and how to figure out if they are the right thing for you and your couple. So this is definitely, I would say, a very black and white conversation. I would say I'm representing the black side of team monogamy, and then Erin is going to be representing the white side of team non-monogamy. So keep listening and let's get into this conversation. Okay, Erin Kaley, our super exciting guest today. I'm very excited to have you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yes. So I remember having my very first client when I was working in the therapy practice that was wanting to tap into an open marriage. It was very generic how they presented it. And it turned out it was, you know, after some digging and some question asking around a topic like this, it often turns out that it is so much more. And I remember in my schooling and stuff, I knew the basics of an open marriage or anything non-monogamous, but working with a couple to really help them shape what exactly that's going to look like is very enthusiastic to me. Like, it's exciting. I think it's an awesome option for people to explore. And it sounds like from your story, Erin, like that's something that you and your partner have gone through this journey together. So tell us about that. What was that like for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I love how you said that too, that like going through this process of what it actually looks like for them. And that's what I would like couples to do, regardless of if it's a monogamous or non-monogamous relationship. I think that in non-monogamy, you have to choose what that relationship looks like. And in monogamy, we kind of follow this template. Most people do. I'm not saying everyone, but I think it makes you more conscious in how you're building your relationship. So I think that that's good for our relationships, is to be really intentional about what that relationship looks like. But we started our relationship, and about 3 months into it, we started talking about non-monogamy, but we didn't bond over the fact that we didn't want to be monogamous. We were a monogamous couple at the beginning, but we were very open talking about sex. We were really open about our sexual desires. I mean, I always felt very open and honest with him. I would have never honestly been comfortable in this kind of relationship dynamic with anyone prior. But it was funny how it came up, because about 3 months in, we were just hanging out at the house, and he started talking about his friend who had just been to this party this weekend. He's like, yeah, they did a hotel takeover and he snuck into this event or whatever. And I was just sitting there like, well, what event? And he's like, a sex party, like, you know, like a lifestyle party. And we're talking like 1,000+ people at this event. And I had no idea until this point what, like, I just didn't realize it was a reality. All I thought of swingers at this point was that you put your keys in a jar, and I thought it was something they did in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, I have to learn everything I can about this because this sounds freaking fascinating. And so that night we ended up ordering takeout and making a profile on a lifestyle site. After we watched a couple of YouTubes, and we're both like, well, we're both into group sex. Like, what would this be like? So that's where it all started for us.
That, oh my gosh, that is, who would have thought, right? Like, he's just casually like, hey, my friend went to this party, hint, hint, wink, wink, right? And then you're like totally into it. I feel like that's like every person's fantasy for their partner to be into that, or to be into what they're possibly into anyways. So, okay, so you do all your research, and I love that you went to YouTube, very, very credible source, if you know what you're looking for, of course. And, I have to say I would have the same experience with my knowledge around the swingers community when I first learned about it. One of my exes, his dad and stepmom were swingers. And I just remember thinking like, oh my gosh, they just go to these parties and they just have sex with all of their friends. And then I would just remember thinking like, do they want to have sex with my parents? Like, what is, you just assume like everybody wants everybody.
Yes, you have legitimate questions. Like I even had my own hangups about it for sure at the beginning. And all of my, like, what's the word for it? Like, I just had so many stereotypes that I had, and I have no idea where I learned these in my life. But at some point I was told that this was reality, and I thought that everyone was out to get me. But it's such a cool community. And it was so funny because to this day, he's like, I did not bring it up as like a kind of like hint, like, are you into this kind of thing? He's like, he literally just got a text from his friend and he was laughing about it. And I was like, what are you laughing about? Like, what's on the text? And then he told me, and I call myself a nerd in lingerie. I have to know everything about everything. So as soon as I had heard this, I was like, I need to understand everything I can about it. And then we both like looked at each other. We're like, well, we would love to have sex with other people. Like, I don't really know about monogamy. I'm not like glued to it. So what would that look like? So.
Wow. All right. So from there, then you make this profile together. And can we ask a little bit more detail about the conversation and the details that you went in before even making the decision to create that profile? How did you even know that your relationship was in a point that it could, I mean, like withstand a lifestyle like this?
Yeah. So honestly, one of my big things in life is like following curiosity. I mean, that's a big motto, and it's what I teach a lot to clients as well, because I didn't really think too much into it. I didn't think that my relationship was at a risk. The relationship I had before him was an abusive one. So I went through a lot of different relationships, and then I went through this one. And then before I met him, I was very ruthless about red flags because I told myself I wasn't going to get into this again. So when I met him, everything was so easy. He's now my fiance, and I felt so comfortable talking to everything about him. I felt comfortable expressing my sexuality. I felt comfortable, playing with him and telling him what I wanted. It was a totally new relationship, and we both had such great communication. And yes, we were only 3 months in, but I knew that we were both really excited about this because I wanted to learn about it. So I pull out my laptop and I pull up YouTube, which is another reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because there wasn't much out there to explain what was going on. They're just like these old people. And that's a thing too. I was like, is it just going to be a bunch of old people? And we're going to be like the young chickens in the group, like I didn't know what to expect. And that's a lot of, even to this day, many people think it's all these older people, which is hilarious, but it's definitely not. It's across the board, which I love. It's a very diverse community. But so that's, I went into it with all of these questions, and I knew I could trust him, which I think is the biggest thing, is that yes, in my relationship, 3 months young, I felt like I could trust him in a sea of women. If I felt like I wasn't comfortable in that, then I know that he would honor that and not push past that. And I think that that's where it made me feel comfortable. And that's what I tell couples who are interested in it too, is like, do you have that security in your relationship, that trust in each other, that if something goes a little too far or touches or triggers boundary, then you will pause or pull out and, you know, take a sidebar. And I always had that trust in him, and I still do about that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Trust is, I think, the most important thing in a relationship. And in my previous work, I remember working with couples that, you know, affairs had happened or infidelity was currently happening. And then a partner brings up the option of opening up the marriage or becoming a polyamorous couple. And it wasn't from that trustworthy place. It was almost that call for help sort of place. And I feel like my opinion around that is that that's not the space to explore a relationship style of that nature, and I'm sure that you're agreeing. I'm gathering that you're agreeing based on the conversation that trust is the most important thing.
I think honestly, that's where I hear most people talk about it, is saying, well, I want to fix our marriage, or I want to fix our relationship, so we're opening up our marriage. And that is a whole bundle of red flags to me, because I do believe from a core value that you have to have security in yourself and your relationship before ever exploring something like this. And if you don't, you will very quickly realize that you don't have the security in yourself or a relationship. And those are things, it's not to say that you have to be perfect. Like, we all know that, you know, we're evolving at all times. We have good days, good weeks, bad weeks. But do you have that safety? Because with that safety as a foundation, it allows you to play. It opens you up to play and trust that you can always come back to this safe place.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so let's continue with your story. So you create a profile, and then what?
So we create a profile, we post all these different like photos. And so we're looking up, at the time, he was a fashion fine arts photographer. So we had some really cool, like sexy shots. And so we posted some of those on there, which I love because I'm an exhibitionist at heart. And I was just so excited to be on the internet, even though it was a private profile. And so we created a joint profile. You put in like all of your sexuality, like things that you're interested in, like different kind of play that you're interested, which is all across the board. You can also share some of your personal guidelines. So we started talking about that too, of like, well, what are we interested in and what are our boundaries? Like, that was a big conversation. We didn't have any guidance on that at all. And so we learned the hard way through it, like where we touched the stove in different places. But it was an important conversation to start. Like, one of the things that we talked about was, one is that they have a whole vocabulary. It's hilarious. In the lifestyle, there's a whole new vocabulary. There's like soft swap, which is, okay, you can have like sexual contact, but no penetration. Full swap, you can have penetration. But at the same time, couples have their own relationship, like their own relationship agreements in that. I don't like calling them rules, because there's something that you're speaking about and collectively agreeing on. So sometimes it's like, okay, I'm okay with sex, but no oral. You know, it doesn't really matter what it is. It's just honoring that. So we created the profile. We started talking about that. We started talking with couples on there, and we got a slew of messages from people, and we were kind of like overwhelmed. And we would talk to people. And then we met this one really cool couple that lived up in North California and had a vacation house in San Diego. And so they were coming down, and they were just super easy and cool. They're like, well, let's just meet up and have a drink. We have a beach house. We can hang out and have a picnic on the beach. So it was like an easy foray. And I call them our mentors, because they were our first people that we played with, and we learned a lot from them. And we had like an awesome dress up party. This girl had an entire closet dedicated to Halloween costumes. So, and they're slutty Halloween costumes, which I loved. So that was like our first, and that was honestly, I think 4 months after we created the profile, because there was a lot of conversations. And I'm telling you, when we went to this first time to play, we were so nervous. And to this day, now our relationship is, almost been together now for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
We still get nervous when we play with new people. And it's just like, you know, they say that excitement is fear without, or fear is excitement without breath. Gay Hendricks says that. And I love that because it is excitement. Like, it's just the fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get past that and then you have such a great time most of the times.
Mm-hmm. Most of the times. Oh my gosh. It's very exciting even for somebody that right now in my life it's not for me, but it's very exciting to hear. And I support, you know, and like I said, when I've worked with people, I definitely support this as a lifestyle and as for something for people to explore in the right context. And so you brought up something when we were chatting earlier about knowing for people to know if this is something that's right for them or not. So how would you say that somebody can explore that or figure out if it's the right thing for them, their couple?
So one, I would reiterate this, like, feeling safe in your relationship. Like, do you trust each other to respect your boundaries? Because these agreements are crucial. When couples don't stick to their agreements together in this lifestyle, it gets really chaotic really quick. And we've always respected our boundaries, but I've had tons of friends that have had moments. And again, we're not perfect. You'll make mistakes. It's okay. We've made our fair share of mistakes as well. But that's the first and foremost, is that, do you have the security in your relationship? Because you won't feel comfortable playing if so. And then another thing is if you have curiosity about it. It's one thing, like, some people are just not into it. They're like, I'm happy. I feel fully expressed in my relationship, not really interested with sleeping with other people. And that's totally fine. Like, that's not a relationship for you. But for people like my partner and I, we were interested with other people. Like, I was happily single for 2 years after college or during college. And I learned so much about myself with other people, like platonically as well as sexually. But I loved, like, the diversity of people. Like, I was interested in the guy with, like, the tattoos that, you know, wanted to go to like the dive bar. But I was also interested in, like, the European guy who wanted to, like, go and have this, like, amazing night and do all of this. And I've been with, like, a French guy who lights the whole house with candles and creates, like, tarts. Like, he's been working on this meal for, like, the last, like, 5 hours. And then I have a Swedish guy, you know, that is just hardcore, like, BDSM. So I love the diversity. From, like, Erotic Blueprint, I'm a shapeshifter, and I feel so expressed in this lifestyle because I can play with different people, because I see what it brings out in me, which I think is really awesome. And, you know, regardless of what relationship dynamic you're in, you can't be everything for your partner. And that's a cool thing. You know, with my partner, he's really into this. Now he has this thing. I mean, he's always had this crush on Avril Lavigne. It was his childhood crush. And I am never going to be this pierced up, tatted, like, skater chick. I'm a girly girl at heart. But it's super cool because he can express that with someone else. And then we get to share our stories. So,
which I'm sure brings up some eroticism in and of itself to be able to talk about it afterwards. And yeah, I can just imagine.
Oh, for sure. Because that's the thing, is, like, we started as swingers. We were in the lifestyle we still are in the lifestyle because we still do play together. But eventually, I think about 3 years in, we opened our relationship so that we can play independently with others. And that was just again, it came to a conversation of, like, hey, it was me, which was scary. And I said, hey, I kind of, like, I've been having this fantasy of, like, watching you with another girl, but I'm not there. Like, maybe I'm watching through a webcam or something. Like, maybe I'm watching you from afar or from a different room. So we were creating space for each other to have our own experiences. And so we kind of, like, dipped our toes in the water and saw how that went and said, you know, if it doesn't work or we don't like it, we can always go back to the lifestyle. And to this day, we say, like, I don't know if we're going to be non-monogamous forever. I mean, I feel like we are, but we always have this permission to keep evolving and keep having those conversations, because, like you talk about a lot, relationships are fluid and our sexuality is fluid. And if things come about, like we might be turned on by one thing one week and turned on by another thing the next week. And as long as you're having the conversation with your partner, you can be on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gosh, I feel like this conversation is so validating for so many people that are listening right now that have maybe been feeling similar to what you just said about having fantasies about certain things, and then having that confidence and control and trust and being able to bring that up with a partner. Like you said, it is super scary, but I always say the answer is always no unless you ask, so until you explore that, you never know.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are just afraid of rejection. I mean, especially from someone that you love so much, you don't want to be seen as weird. Most people that are in my DMs are just asking for validation of the things that are turning them on or the fantasies that they have. There's a guy, for example, and it's funny because he doesn't consider himself a non-monogamous or monogamish even, but he's interested in having a hot wife, which is having a wife that sleeps with other men, and whether they play all together or she goes and sleeps with him and then comes back to him. And so it's funny, a lot of people are glued to like, oh no, we're monogamous, but we're just having this outside play. So however you want to define it is fine. Again, like this is what relationship design is about. Mm-hmm. You decide what works for you. But even him, because he brought it up to a couple women and they were so like, why would you want me to sleep with someone else? You should only want me. Like, why would you want anyone else's cock inside me? Whatever. And it was so hurtful to him. And he was afraid of having that rejection again. And it was just about having the conversation of like, hey, it's okay. Mm-hmm. It's just a filter. If no one's not in, it's one thing, you might have a fantasy that you just want to talk about. And that's the thing too, is like, I have couples who are curious about sleeping with other people, but they get off just fine, just having the conversation with their partner, maybe having some like sex talk, like pillow talk about it, and then playing together. And that's cool. They keep it a fantasy. Mm-hmm. And some couples want to take it another level and actually play with other people or go to a play party, sex party, swinger club, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Have you been to sex parties before?
Yes. I went to my first one in Palm Springs about a year into the lifestyle. I think it was about a year. And it was the most mind-blowing night ever. I still remember everything about it because I just had no idea that this kind of community existed. Mm-hmm. It was in Palm Springs. It was at this hotel. They had sold out the hotel. So we were at the hotel next door, which was amazing because they had these theme nights. And of course you're wearing these like scantily clad outfits. So I'm wearing my outfit and I had this big trench coat over it. I felt like I was straight out of a movie because I can't walk across the street in what I was wearing inside. But as soon as you get into the hotel, there's women wearing pasties or nothing at all, or just these crazy costumes. And my big thing is liberation. And I felt so liberated to just express myself. And even then, I will say that night, I really realized that this community is just about being sex positive and about being open-minded, because there were couples there that actually they were not non-monogamous. They were monogamous couples that were just interested in inspiration and talking to other couples that were open to talking about sex and what they wanted. And they would just hang out. Maybe they would watch in the playroom, but they wouldn't interact or play with anyone else. And then they'd go back to their hotel room and do their own thing. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really cool too, that they had that trust in themselves. Like just because they were in that environment didn't mean that they needed to participate. And I also experienced how consensual this space is, because every couple has their own agreements. And so you have these conversations with couples, like, where are your boundaries? Like, what's okay and what's not okay? And every step through the process, like, I'm really appreciative for our foray into this community through that event, because I did learn like how there's so like all these touch points. Like, even if you agree to play with a couple, like, before you touch this, or before you touch them there, or before you go down on her, you always make this, whether it's verbal or just visual, you're making this contact to ask consent through the whole thing, which I thought was amazing because I just really didn't have that kind of like communication style before I was in the lifestyle.
Wow. And I asked specifically about sex parties because my husband and I, we were going through what did we do recently? Oh, the want, will, won't quiz together. And, you know, sex parties is on there, having sex with other people is on, tons of things are on there. And I remember him saying like, absolutely not to that. That was a won't for him. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, we can just go there. Like you said, that be the monogamous couple that's going there and watching, because I'm also an exhibitionist and also a voyeur. And so even just the thought of, like you said, watching other people to get inspiration and to do our own thing, that is a huge turn on for me as well. And so I wanted to ask specifically about that because I know there's many people that listen that have the same mindset as he did about sex parties as, oh, it's just everybody goes there and just fucks each other, right? It's like a huge orgy. And that's not what it's like at all from my education.
Yeah. And I think that that's the thing too, is that people do think that because it's such a wild sexual community that it's non-consensual and that people are just like haywire, but it is such a high touch point conversation lifestyle. Like through everything, people are just speaking and being open-minded and sharing everything about themselves, which is just really cool. But yes, I think that that's a big misconception. And that's one of the reasons why I'm interested in doing my own sex parties. I live in Spain, in Mallorca. And I think that there's a big gap for that because I do think that how they're marketed, they seem so crazy and outlandish. And I think even monogamous couples can feel so seen in these. Like, again, like even as an exhibitionist, there are couples that will want to play and just put on a show for the rest, but not have anyone interact with them. And that's totally fine. And you can just enjoy being like, you know, the porn star you've always wanted to be. And then you get to like go sleep with your partner and not have anyone touch you, you know? And I think that that's so amazing. Like even in sex clubs, there's like a room, like I know there's a club in Madrid in Spain, and there is a room with this giant bed that you can go into, and you can lock the door so that no one else can come in. But there's these windows so people can look in on you, which is so hot. I'm also an exhibitionist and I love it. I think it's so cool that there's all these different like play environments that you can express yourself in, but still honor your boundaries and not get, you know, to a orgy dog pile, because there are those at the sex clubs. They're fun to watch. I have not partook in one yet, but maybe in the future.
I love how you're like, yet.
Yes. Always a yet.
Yeah. Cause again, you never know. So, okay. So you have this conversation with your partner about playing individually. And then what has that evolved into? You said you've been together for 8 years. So now what does your lifestyle look like together or apart?
So we consider ourselves monogamish, open relationship. I mean, it's funny with the labels because we're like, we don't see ourselves as this. It's not like we identify like this, because sometimes we don't play with anyone else we've had a year that we haven't played with anyone else. No, not for any particular reason. We just weren't attracted to anyone else or not interested in. And also like in our relationship, like where we've noticed, we had a conversation recently about this, because there are times that we don't end up playing with anyone else. And we've noticed that as a pattern, when we're having our own rocky times in our relationship, or we aren't communicating as clearly, we naturally are not interested in playing with other people because we don't feel safe in our home base. And that's when it really came to me of like, oh, security is like primary importance in this lifestyle. And I was very appreciative because we never have to have the conversation of, do we feel safe? We always ask, to this day, we don't assume that it's okay. We're like, hey, I met this guy. I'm really interested in talking to him. Like, what do you think? And he'll go, yeah, go for it. Like, sounds good. Like, let me hear about it. So even now we still have those micro conversations, but I think it's interesting because sometimes we're active like every weekend, and other times it's like maybe once a month. And sometimes it goes for months or a full year. It's been. So we always have the option to play, and we give ourselves the freedom to be interested in that. And And it's always fun too, because, like I'm not really interested in playing with anyone else right now, but I've been really loving our group play. Mm-hmm. So we've been having different like kind of threesomes lately, which I love. And we met a new girl on Field, and she's never had a threesome before, but she thinks that she's interested in girls, which I love being like the first. So I'm super excited about that. And so it's fun. It's kind of cool to see how it evolves, because sometimes, I'm interested in the bad boys. And then I'm like, okay, now I want to have threesomes. Like I want to have threesomes with two guys. And then, like a couple of weeks ago, I said, I really miss like playing with girls. I want a threesome with two girls. And then sure enough, here we go. Call that manifestation, if you will.
Yeah. I love this. I love this so much. And okay, so as we're wrapping up here, we've talked about many things, obviously, which is very exciting. Thank you so much to Erin, just for being so open and sharing your own personal experiences, and challenges too, as well. So so you said in the beginning too that you did some digging on YouTube, and I'm sure by now you have some better resources. Are you willing to share those for the people that are listening that might want to explore this lifestyle for themselves?
Yeah, so there is a myriad of books, and it depends on what form of non-monogamy you're interested in. Like for say, like I started as a swinger, we're now in an open relationship. There's also polyamory. So polyamory is more dedicated relationships, like how my partner and I have it. Like it's definitely more sexual. Like, yes, we have chemistry and we're totally okay with seeing people multiple times, which again, some other open relationship people are not. So it just depends on what it is. But I would always start with a book called Ethical Slut. It's amazing. And it's just all about, it's very liberating to understand. And I think that that's definitely the book I would go to. If you're interested in polyamory, I would totally recommend Remodeled Love on Instagram. She's incredible. She's very funny. And she gives just some really great perspective on non-monogamy in general. Like even her perspective on love, right? Because I even had my own hangups about polyamory. Like I wasn't comfortable with having like feelings for other people, even though that happens because it's relationships and we feel safe around that now. But that was one of the things early in our relationship. We wanted to have group chats only, and we weren't comfortable, talking to other people outside that. And we've evolved our own securities around that and our trust in our relationship. But I think for her too, she made such a good point lately. And she said something to the effect of like, we love so many of our friends. Why can't we love more than one person, like romantically? And I think it's an interesting perspective because we have plenty of love. There's not a limitation to that. I do think that you have to, like with polyamory, you are calendar balancing and doing all of that. And with our partnership, like I love spending time with him, and I can't imagine running multiple relationships. Like I'm not interested in that, but I'm not afraid of it anymore, which I was afraid of it before. Now I'm not terrified of it. And so I always like getting to that place where, okay, am I turned on, turned off by it versus just being afraid and just staying in my little safety bubble.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. We'll definitely link those in the show notes for people to find easily. And same for you, how if someone is interested in working with you, can you tell us about just the type of services that you offer right now and also how they can get in contact with you?
Yeah, so I'm actually launching a mini course soon. So that'll be really fun. And so that'll be on my website on erinkaley.com. And then on Instagram at Turn On with Erin. So I'm posting everything on there, and I love having these conversations. So if you have any questions about it, like further questions, anyone listening, I'm open ears to hear about it. And I do coaching, so I'm free to talk.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Erin. This has been just, such a great conversation, very eye-opening. And I hope, again, people that are listening came into this with an open mind. I gave that in the beginning, of course, but for sure, Erin is such an approachable person. So if you do have questions, I highly recommend reaching out to her and definitely giving her a follow on Instagram. She's been a fun person that I've had the pleasure of meeting just in the last month. So thank you so much again for being here today.
Thank you so much for inviting me here. It was so fun.
Yes. thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you loved it, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a thing. And if you loved it so fucking much, be sure to leave a 5-star review. I'll see you next week, and until then, keep owning your sexual self.